Thank you very much, House Chair, Mr. President, honourable members. It is an honour to be here today to answer this debate. You know, Mr. President, I sat here in that seat last week and I listened to some ANC talk. I listened to ANC talk that reminded me of DA action. Mr. President, I sat here and listened to you speaking about the economy. You spoke about tourism, agriculture and agri-processing. You spoke about the ocean's economy and oil and gas. Mr. President, that reminded me of a project that we call Project Kulisa, that in the Western Cape, under DA action, we started 5 years ago. Mr. President, Project Kulisa, which is what you were talking about, but we put into action, and if I highlight a couple of those projects just to perhaps help you on what needs to happen in South Africa going forward, we had a project, or we still have a project called Airlift. The ANC and SAA were cutting flights from London to Cape Town, from Germany to Cape Town. We put a project in place that says, let's bring more flights into Cape Town. We started that 5 years ago, and today, as I stand here, we've brought 14 new direct flights from across Africa and the world to Cape Town. That means, Mr. President, 1.5 million new seats in and out of our airport. It means 52% growth in trade underneath the belly of those aircraft. It means that tourism grew in 2016 by 16%, in 2017 by 20%. Last year, in the height of a drought, with junk status, we still grew at 10%. But you know what else, Mr. President? Mr. President, whatever we do in this province, we do to create growth and jobs. We do it for the people of the Western Cape, but we also do it for South Africa, Mr. President. And this project called Project Kulisa, as I stand here today, we are busy in KwaZulu-Natal helping that province with exactly the same project. We are busy, Mr. President. We are busy, Mr. President, in Kenya with that exact project. Mr. President, you spoke about agriculture, and I'll highlight one project on agriculture, and you spoke about market access. We focus on the halal market. We have grown that now, Mr. President, to an export market from this region of 10 billion rand a year. We focus on the ocean's economy and oil and gas, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that just now. But all of these projects talk to what you were speaking about. It is not about talk, it is about action and about DA action. Mr. President, I could talk about the red tape reduction or red tape to red carpet. I could talk about Green Cape. I could talk about skills. I could talk about tech. But all of these we measure, Mr. President. And yesterday, guess what came out? The jobs numbers in South Africa. And what happened when the jobs numbers came out in South Africa? In this province, once again, the unemployment rate went down. We now still hold the lowest unemployment rate in South Africa in this province at 19.3%, 7.8% lower than the average in our country. Mr. President, in rural areas where people are really poor, our unemployment rate dropped by 3.4% to 15.7%, the lowest rate in South Africa. Mr. President, this region, after investing in broadband, free Wi-Fi hotspots, incubators in Khayelitsha, incubators in Elsie's River, hotspots across the province, we are now Africa's tech hub, and we are also Africa's, or sub-Saharan Africa's top financial center. This happens when you don't just talk, you move to action. But, Mr. President, there are a few things that are really holding us back. There are a few things in this province that are like cancer eating away at the people of our province. And one of those is crime. Mr. President, crime is out of hand in our province, and at the moment it is controlled out of Tshwane. It is controlled at a national level, and we need to change that. Mr. President, this is a very serious issue. we need to decentralize policing in our province. We need to decentralize it to provinces and cities so that we can really deal with crime. And Mr. President, I'm going to highlight one or two issues to you. These are the documents that I'm going to talk about. I will put them in this brown envelope. This brown envelope in the Western Cape, we normally think about Rasool, but this is not going to have cash in it. It is going to have documents. And Mr. President, crime is serious. 10 people every single day in this province are murdered. 10 people every single day. Mr. President, on the 11th of October, the Cabinet in this province wrote this document to our Minister of Police. This document deals with a very serious issues. It deals with Section 206 of our Constitution. This document, to date, has not been answered. Mr. President, on the 10th of December, we wrote this document to the Minister. This deals with the new anti-gang unit, which we welcome, but it asks some serious questions, Mr. President, and to date we have not had an answer on this document. Mr. President, on the 11th of December, we wrote this letter to the Minister, reminding him of the 10th of October letter. We still have not had an answer on that document. Mr. President, on the 10th of January, we wrote this letter to the Minister. At the moment, Mr. President, our senior management in SAPS in this province are laying charges against each other. At the moment, our senior management in SAPS are really in dire straits, and 10 people are dying every day in this province, Mr. President. Mr. President, we need to change things. Too many children in places in this province do their homework underneath the dining room table because they're too scared of stray bullets if they sit at the dining room table. Mr. President, when family members suffer a heart attack in places of this province, the ambulance can't go directly to that household because it has to go via the police station to get an escort so that it can go and fetch someone to give them the much needed health care. And then finally, Mr. President, there was a judgment in this province, a judgment that was brought by the Social Justice Coalition that ruled at the end of last year that the Western Cape High Court has declared that the allocation of police resources to the province unfairly discriminates on the basis of race and poverty. It discriminates against poor black people, Mr. President. I will include the judgment in there. And the minister has said on radio that he will withdraw an appeal. There's an appeal against this judgment. He will withdraw it. But guess what? There has been no actual appeal of this judgment. The police now want to appeal the judgment of the court that there is unfair allocation to police of poor and black areas in this province. That is absolutely shocking. We need control here in the province. And then lastly, Mr. President, you said to me when I sat here, you said to me, watch this space. And Mr. President, while I was watching that space, the lights went out. The lights went out, Mr. President. And Mr. President, you spoke about oil and gas. You spoke about the find off Mossel Bay. Mr. President, we have been working on oil and gas for 10 years already. And not only the province, we work on it with DTI and the national government. We work on it in Saldanha Bay with the local authority. Mr. President, we are already ready for that oil and gas. And when the lights went out, it really reminded me that if you remember a Minister Jumat Peterson, who made an allocation of gas to Kruger and Richards Bay. Now, Mr. President, if the lights are out, we already have done in this province the EIA at Ankerlig in Atlantis. We have already done all the work on gas to come in to Saldanha Bay. Mr. President, we need that decision changed. Gas must come in now to the Western Cape. We are ready now to start with gas to power. We are ready now, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, if you are serious about making a difference in our country, if you are serious about not just the talk, but the action, give us the right to bring in that oil, bring in that gas, so we can actually generate energy alongside our green energy in this province and make a difference. We want to make a difference, and we will fight, Mr. President. We will fight for energy independence, and we will fight for energy resilience and sustainability. We want gas to make that difference to the green economy, and at the same time, let's also focus on getting gas into Mossel Bay too. Mr. President, if you are serious about crime, we need 4,500 more policemen and women. You need to make sure that the minister withdraws the appeal against that judgment at the Social Coalition. You also, Mr. President, need to make sure that we allow gas to come into the system. Because, Mr. President, in 84 days, Mr. President, the country are going to make a decision. And when this country makes a decision, they are tired of just the talk, Mr. President. They are going to make a decision for action. And we are going to make sure that that action comes from the Democratic Alliance. We are sick and tired of waiting, Mr. President. We now need that action. And the Democratic Alliance will deliver that in 84 days. Thank you very much.
Honorable